Dear students, dear students, today we will be discussing different methods of the printing. In the previous lectures, we had discussed different styles of printing, difference between dyeing and printing, and difference between discharge and resist style of printing. Today we will be discussing different methods of printing. Now, very firstly, what is a method of printing and what is a style of printing? Let us understand this first. As I discussed in the previous lecture, that style is a principle of textile printing. Means it is the basic rule by which all kinds of printing on fabrics can be done. Now, what is a method of printing? Method of printing is basically the technology, equipment, machine, and the procedure used to make that print. So, if we differentiate these two, one is acting as a principle of printing, style is acting as a principle of printing, whereas method is the implementation of the style. If we differentiate, methods are many but styles are only three. Means principles of printing are only three, whereas implementation of these principles can be done by different methods. So today we will be discussing different methods of printing one by one. Very first method, which is the block printing, which is block printing. This is the oldest method of printing which we know फ्रॉम द एंशियंट टाइम्स. सबसे पुराने समय से ब्लॉक प्रिंटिंग जो है वो सबसे पुराना मेथड ऑफ प्रिंटिंग है. ब्लॉक्स आर नॉर्मली मेड फ्रॉम द वुड, बट इट कैन ऑल्सो बी मेड फ्रॉम सम अदर मटेरियल्स used along with the wood. So how blocks are made, that will be discussed in the separate topic. So two kinds of block can be there on which design can be made. If the design is appearing on the block in the raised form, then it is called in relief. And if the design is appearing on the block in the engraved form, then it is called intaglio. Okay, so as we move further, so this is the oldest method of printing which we use for making prints on the fabrics. We find fabrics of very ancient times which were made by the blocks. Nowadays also this method is in use because there are many kinds of printing which is required by the market. So block printing is one of them which is still used because it is the demand of the market. Second method is the stencil printing. As we see on our screens, second method is stencil printing. It is basically a craft method and it was originated in Japan. So how it is made? Stencil method is basically a paper cutting method in which we draw the design on the paper and cut it. Okay, and then we apply color in those cut areas by placing that stencil. That cut portion of the paper is called a stencil. If we place the stencil on the fabric and then we apply the color on the fabric with the help of the paint and brush. So it is normally a crafts work which of course cannot be used commercially. In the olden times, when we wanted some variety of motifs, variety of prints, So in a playway method, we could use this method, and even till today, it is also used as a craft work method for making different kinds of design on the fabric. Next method is screen printing. Screen printing is basically an evolution from the stencil printing, because stencils were used that were made of paper. When we introduced some threads or mesh in between two sets of stencils, we got a thing like of a screen. So today's screen, which is used in the industry or in the laboratories or in the anywhere, it is a evolution, means evolved method of stencil printing. So basically we can say that stencil is the history of screen printing. So screens are made from nylon, polyester mesh cloths, and it is used for manual screen printing, machine screen printing. Then of course in machine screen printing there are other machines are there, flatbed screen printing machine and rotary screen printing machine. This is the most widely used method, means screen printing, because it gives you more production than the block printing, and it gives you printings for whole width of the fabric. पूरा fabric का जो width है वो हम इससे print कर सकते हैं. So from manual printing, जहाँ पर कि manually हाथ से printing किया जाता है, उसके बाद machine printing जिसमें कि flat bed and rotary screen printing, which are the most advanced methods, and we can print many number of colors, up to you can say 12-14 colors also we can print. So this is the screen printing method. Next is your roller printing method. This was the you can say mechanized version of the printing and fully automatic, fully continuous method of printing. Basically it is printing is done in this method by using a rotary cylinder on which fabric moves, and along with that rotary cylinder there are design rollers from which the material goes, and there is a setup of things which we use for the application of color on the design roller, and in continuation that design is applied onto the fabric. So it is a continuous method of printing in which design is made on the fabric by the impression of the design ruler. We will study this method in detail in further topics. Next method of printing is your digital printing, which is the today's method, and of course it is applied in two forms. Number one, heat transfer printing, and other is inkjet printing. So transfer printing is one of the methods which we use for the particularly for synthetic materials, in which, as the name suggests, the printing is done with the help of application of heat. But the point here is that if we use synthetic materials, then only dispersed dyes are used to make prints on the fabric, and we can only use synthetic materials like polyester, nylon, acrylic, etc. Nowadays development has also taken place in the other production methods like inkjet printing, which we can use for the other materials like cotton and acrylic and other materials also we can use, because cotton is the most widely used material and most dyes are used for the cotton. So inkjet printing techniques have also come in this digital printing. Alongside these printing, which is the direct printing styles, there are also some special methods of printing which we use specially for particular applications, like carpet printing is there. So carpet printing, in the carpet printing, we are using the same methods, of course, which like screen and machine printing, like rotary screen printing. So method is the same, but the only thing is here the material is of special quality. Material is of special quality, carpet, which is very heavy, you can say, item. So that is why it has been mentioned as a special method of printing. Next is your warp printing. Warp printing means printing on the yarns. So if we make printing on yarns, we will have variety of yarns. By that we can make variety of fabrics also. So we can print the gray warp sheet, print the warp sheet with a single color or with two colors and many number of colors, by which we will get the colored yarns. By that colored yarns we will make the fabrics. So those fabrics will have some abstract designs, special designs. Okay. Then it is the photographic printing method. Photographic printing means this is a method of printing from photo engraved rollers. The resultant design looks like a photograph. So if we want to have prints, nowadays we are also seeing the these kind of prints. If you want to have a photograph on your design or any garment, so photographic printing is used for particularly that purpose. This can also be made by screens. Okay. Next is your blotch printing. In blotch printing, basically it is a process where background color is the design. Background color of the design is printed rather than dyed. Okay. So if there are two colors, one is the ground color and other is the print color. So when ground color is printed instead of the upper color, then it is called blotch printing. So covered area of the color is more. Next is your burnout printing. It is a very special kind of printing which basically is based on the principle of dissolution of cotton fibers. It is basically done on polyester, cotton, blended fabrics. If we print the fabric, blended fabric, with a paste of the acid, if it is a strong acid, a highly concentrated acid, as we know, the cotton dissolves in 70% H2SO4. So what by that what we will get, cotton will be dissolved. Okay. So only polyester will be visible in the design area. So that will give you a screen like appearance in the fabric. So this is a burnout printing. Why it is called a burnout printing? Because we are burning the cotton material from the blend. So this gives us a printed effect on the fabric. Next is your tie and dye printing. It is a traditional method of printing which is basically comes under the resist style of printing. So in this case we tie the fabric with the yarn and then of course dye the material, whole material. So at the place where we have tied, we will have no color. So this gives you a print effect on the fabric. Next is your crimp printing. Crimp printing is basically the effect of strong alkali. As we know that if we treat the cotton material with strong alkali, means sodium hydroxide, then it gets swells. Then it gets swollen and of course more dye is taken in that area. This is the property of the, you can say, strong alkali on the cotton. So if we print the cotton material with NaOH, means sodium hydroxide, so there the material shrinks. If you do not stretch it, material shrinks and it gives you a crinkle effect. Okay. And if we dye the material, there the dye will be taken up, will be more in the printed area. So this gives you a crinkled and you can say a variance of dyeing, and it is called a crimp printing. Next is your duplex printing, means normally we print, then only one face of the fabric is printed. But In duplex printing, what we are getting print on both face and the back of the fabric with equal clarity. So this is called duplex printing. Next is your batik printing. This is also you can say resist method like tie and dye. There in the tie and dye method we were using the threads, but here we are resisting that area with by using wax. So print is made using a molten wax, and then the material is dyed. What we get that whole fabric is dyed, whereas printed area is not dyed because of the presence of wax. So later on we remove that wax by peeling it out and then boiling it. We will get prints in the uh, waxed areas. That is called a batik printing. So tie and dye and batik printing are basically traditional methods which were specialized in particular parts of India. Batik was very much popular in you can say Maharashtra, and tie and dye is a method of you can say Rajasthan. So that is also called bandhej or bandhani prints. So there is a variety of prints. There are number of print methods which we use. Today we discuss these some methods, some of these methods in our today's lecture. So with this I close this lecture of today's, that in which we have discussed different methods of printing. From next lecture I will be discussing the chapter 2, means printing paste. Thank you. Thank you very much.